All right, everybody, welcome back. Fantasy Alarm TV. Jeff Mans alongside the Oracle himself, Ray Flowers. Ray, what's going on a Friday night?
Great to be with you, Jeff. We obviously got some pretty exciting things to talk about. It's not what we were planning to talk about, but boy, has the NFL exploded on us today.
Wow. When you thought the NFL couldn't get any dumber, all of a sudden they go ahead and set whole new boundaries. In case you guys are just hearing of it now, Vikings running back Adrian Peterson arrested in North Montgomery County, Texas for reckless endangerment or negligent injury to a child. So the story is just breaking right now. FantasyAlarm.com has the latest details for you to check it out. But right now, with his arrest being, or his indictment at least, this leaves his availability for Sunday much up in the air here, right?
It does, and obviously that's a very minor point at this point of the story. We want to make sure that everyone's healthy and safe. It's been reported by Jay Glazier that the situation with Peterson, because of the indictment being handed down, requires him to go turn himself in. So his availability for this weekend's game is highly in question right now. Obviously that's not the most important thing, but Jeff, if Peterson is down, what should the folks do?
Well, right before we went to the show, you and I had a little battle of backup running backs for the Minnesota Vikings. I went out and grabbed Jerick McKinnon, rookie running back. He's a small school kid, fast, good, very agile, can catch the ball out of the backfield as well, which would give the Vikings a nice dynamic weapon there. Catches the ball a little bit better than Adrian Peterson, as a matter of fact. So might get some boost in a PPR type format. McKinnon is the long-term answer here for the Vikings. Matt Asiata is also there. I mean, we saw enough out of him last year to know that there's nothing really valuable. He had a nice game. He had a nice couple of games at the end of last year, but Asiata is just not the answer. McKinnon's the guy you want to pick up on the waiver wire.
Well, Asiata had that nice game, Jeff. What do you have, 33 carries? I mean, it was
so.
Clearly a volume situation for him.
Yeah.
This Adrian Peterson situation, as you noted, is just breaking. We have no idea what's going to happen long term. I mean, this could be a relatively minor issue. It could be an extremely significant issue. The NFL can't afford to have any more public relations nightmares. If this turns out to be something significant from the off-the-field actions, the Vikings in the league may have no choice to do something with Adrian Peterson. In that case, McKinnon and Asiata have to be at it at this point. I mean, it's a total shot in the dark. Asiata obviously is not that talented of a runner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players in this league that are much more talented than him, but he would have to have a role. Would you envision a 3-down role for the youngster if Peterson is down?
Possibly. I don't think it would be that way at first. Like they do with all rookie running backs, they sort of give him a couple carries here, a couple carries there. The more he could take on, the more he could handle it, more he could handle pass protection, most importantly, the more reps he'll get. And in a North Turner type offense here, you know the running back has a lot of fantasy upside. This leads to another point here, Ray, about just fantasy leagues in general and the ability to go straight to the waivers and pick guys up after the initial waiver period. Because, in a lot of the higher stakes leagues, you're not allowed to do that. Whereas you and I are arm wrestling basically over McKinnon and Asiata before the show in the few leagues that do allow you to go first come, first serve after the waiver wire. How do you feel about that?
Those are horrible leagues. They're horrible leagues because, number one, you're 60 seconds faster than me. But, number two, those leagues just reward people that are just sitting at their computer. And, whenever this story breaks, I mean, you could have been spending the last 4 hours looking at your fantasy football team. You could have gone downstairs to get, some dinner. Your wife called you. Your kid needed some help in the bathtub. You come back and you miss the news. And you literally have been there 99% of the time the last 4 hours, and you lose out on the players. So I think those first-come, first-serve waivers are terrible. It should, at a minimum, be run every night at midnight or something like that. There should always be a set time. Everyone should have some time to access the players. First-come, first-serve, terrible.
I totally agree with that, 100%. Other breaking news in the NFL today, Ray. I guess it's good news for Josh Gordon. It's official. Josh Gordon has been somewhat reinstated. His suspension has been lowered from 1 year to 10 games. The NFL labeling with 10 games now instead of, we thought maybe the worst would be around 8. We thought 8 was sort of the middle of the line. He gets 10 games here, Ray. A lot of people, they drafted him in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th rounds, the middle rounds there. People have been spending $800, $900 on him on the waiver wire this past week, speculating as to when his sentence was reduced. Now he gets 10 games. What does this do for his fantasy value?
Well, I think it's idiotic to spend that much money on any one player. I know you wrote about that today at Fantasy Alarm. These people that are blowing their entire budgets to add Gordon. This news means he's back in Week 12. If this report is correct, we don't have complete verification of it, but we do believe it's an accurate report. He'll miss the 10 games. He'll be back in Week 12. He's got other issues he's dealing with. He's still got the pending DUI situation. We have to say to ourselves, can this guy stay out of trouble for the next 3 months? Because clearly, if he has another problem, we're going to be talking about, lifetime, at least season-long, lifetime banishment is a possibility. They said he was in stage 4, which was the reason for the 10-game suspension here. I'm not starting him in Week 12 even if he's out there. Now, maybe when you get to Week 13, 14, 15, we're in the playoffs, maybe you get a winner there. But, Jeff, I can't trust him at all to stay healthy. I know you and I have discussed him off the field. If you spent 75, 80% of your budget, huge mistake. If you do have him, do you sit on him? I mean, we're talking about 2/3 of the season.
I can't sit on him.
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, Week 4, we've got 6 teams on a bye. You got buys, you got injuries with guys like Ben Tate that are coming back in 3 weeks, and guys who are useful in the near term that gets you to the playoffs. Like 10 games and you come back at Week 11 or 12 or what have you, that's fantasy playoffs. You might not get there because you're holding a roster spot for dead weight. You can't do that. You can't do that. And I think this is just another example of fantasy people, fantasy owners, wanting to, have the big swing in genitalia. That's what they really are after. Everyone wants to be the one that has it. Hey, I got Josh Gordon. I did it. I drafted. I knew it. I'm smarter than you. You're not. It's dumb. It was a terrible mistake. A terrible misstep. And for those of you that drafted him, then dropped him, then that's bad. If you drafted him, dropped him, re-picked him up and spent, not only did he waste a draft pick, and now your fab budget, how dumb do you have to be?
But
how dumb?
Yes. Jeff, I know you've been saying that since this whole thing started. I've been saying that since the whole thing started. I think that leads to a bigger issue. Why don't people listen? I mean, some of this stuff is very logical. It's very simple. Beyond, can you hold them? Can you stash them? What does it do to your team? As you have noted, as I have noted many times, this guy has never stayed out of trouble. No. Never. So I don't know why anyone's counting on him. You literally cannot depend on him staying out of trouble from now until game 12. I mean,
you'd be better 11, off. You can't. You'd be better off with a magical top hat and Frosty the Snowman. That's what you'd be better off than Josh Gordon. I think nobody's listening to us, Ray, because nobody has seen Fantasy Alarm TV. We're broadcasting live, fantasyalarm.com, every single day here. Jeff